purpose of this video is to walk students through the online Fly Lab for the Science Courseware site. These examples will show classic Mendelian genetics patterns. Most AP questions will ask students to analyze data to decide patterns of inheritance, which is why it is so important to do the Fly Lab. In order to complete the crosses, you will need to navigate to the sciencecourseware.org website. Select the Fly Lab JS, which stands for JavaScript option, and on the web page you will see displayed several options. Students can select between male and female, and then select from several traits. Once the trait is selected, the different phenotypes will be displayed above the fly. The first cross will be a female who is wild for the wing trait. The wild traits are the traits that are the most common phenotypes in nature. For fruit flies, the wild form of the wing allele is long wings. Vestigial wings are considered a mutation. In this cross, the male will have the vestigial wing mutation. The offspring of this cross is called the F1 generation, and they will exhibit the dominant form of the allele, and the genotype will be heterozygous for all the F1 offspring because both parents were homozygous for their respective phenotypes. We will continue to follow Mendel's classic experiment and follow up by crossing a male and a female from the F1 generation to produce the F2 generation offspring. Initially, you might notice that there are 4 flies displayed. This is because the flies are separated into both phenotypes and by males and females. We can deduce that this trait is an autosomal trait because there are equal numbers of offspring for the wild phenotype between males and females, and equal numbers of offspring for the vestigial trait between males and females. Select the Analyze tab to view the data in the table format and click the Ignore Sex of Flies option to reduce the groups to just phenotypes. A chi-square analysis is used to calculate variation from the 3:1 Mendelian genetics expected ratio. The expected values can be calculated by applying the expected percentage for each phenotype to the total number of flies. This program will actually calculate the chi-square for you after filling in the expected ratio of 3:1. Notice that the chi-square value is much less than our critical value of 3.82, so that means that we will fail to reject our hypothesis, and these crosses follow Mendelian genetics patterns of inheritance. It is important to communicate your results clearly using both quantitative and qualitative data. In the claim, make a clear statement about the inheritance pattern. At this point, our focus is Mendelian genetics patterns. For example, if we are carrying out a monohybrid cross, the expected ratio should be 3:1 for the F2 generation. There also needs to be a statement about the chi-squared value for the cross, and if this value, when compared to the critical value, allows you to fail to reject or reject your null hypothesis. This is normally followed by a description of the phenotypes and the ratio of offspring for each phenotype. The reasoning is where you relate which concepts of genetics relate to the results observed. Be sure to stop and pause to only include those concepts that actually relate to the cross performed. For a monohybrid cross, topics can be explained relating to which traits are dominant or recessive. In your writing, you can relate back to the lab results by saying something like, when all the offspring of the F1 generation exhibited a certain phenotype, it was confirmed that this is the dominant trait, and it showed how dominant traits mask recessive traits. Another concept that can be discussed is the law of segregation. Another example of making appropriate decisions about what should be included in your writing is the law of independent assortment. This should not be discussed for a monohybrid cross, because this only applies to more than one trait located on different chromosomes. Be sure to go back and review the important vocabulary listed. This is Ms. Wilson speaking, and wishing you a golden day. I hope this video helped you retrieve some helpful information.